Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Come on! Live from the Govardhan Echo Village in beautiful downtown Maharashtra, India. It's Wisdom of the Sages, your daily yoga podcast, and I'm your host, Raghunath. And I'm here with my co-host, Kaustubha, and 72 of our regular students on Zoom, plus more, because some people are sharing the screen with their favorite people. And I'm here with a bunch of our yoga teacher trainees who are here for our month-long study of, we study three things. We have a Yoga 300 teacher training, but it's got a very strong bhakti twist where we study music and kirtan and sacred literature, as well as Ayurvedic cooking and Ayurveda for yoga teachers, as well as the asana pranayam. So it's a very interesting month we have. And then we have a special sacred literature training that our friend Doyal and Kaustubha lead, where we go through the sacred bhakti literature. Bhakti is not just like a feeling. It's like a science to it, you know? People misconstrue the word bhakti. It's love. What does that mean for an American? We love everything. We're loving, like, people love hot dogs. People love their husband. People love their wife. They love their kid. I mean, even if you love your kid and you love your wife, that's two different nuanced types of love, right?
Yes.
So bhakti is really like, we go through extracting bhakti from the ancient literature of India. And because of it, people walk away with a really good understanding. Our goal, a win for us, is they walk out with a deep understanding of what the foundation of our yoga practice is, and we make that. And also, our friend Madhu leads the Kirtan Academy, which is great for people who want to study Kirtan. So, welcome.
Om Namo.
Yeah, so we are reading from you got the mantras, friend?
We haven't done the. Oh, well, I guess we don't.
She's got to get
the
her.
Om Namo.
She's knitting the scarf. She's knitting this. She's got no scarf in her hand. Yet she's still frustrated. There we go. Mara, come on. Okay, so we anything we want to say, Kaustubha?
I don't know. It's always a good idea to throw out that if people want to join online on Zoom, where they can write and all that.
Wisdom of the Sages 108@gmail.com. If you got special questions, or if you want to join us live, we do this 5 a.m. Eastern time usually, but we're in India. It's all over the place. It's been 7:30, so our regulars have been sleeping in, and occasionally we get a Californian on board. And then there's a whole new, now that it's a podcast and a YouTube, there's a whole new slew of people we call the others. They're the people who don't watch live. But anyway, that's how you can contact us. Wisdom of the Sages at Wisdom of the Sages 108@gmail. And if you're on the Zoom group, or you want to join the Zoom group, you just write that address Mara and say, I want to join live. And then you have the option to write in questions on the spot. Is it still an open group to join Zoom, or have we limited it? We have not limited it. Okay, so we're going to start with our mantras. Before we read, we always chant appreciations for the book itself and the great teachers that went ahead of us. So it starts like this. Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayam mudiraye. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances to the personality of Godhead Narayan, unto Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nasta prayeshva bhadreshu nityam bhagavad sevaya bhagavati uttama shloke bhaktir bhavati naishtaki. By regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam, and by rendering of service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed. And loving service to the personality of Godhead, whose praise with transcendental songs is established in the heart as an irrevocable fact. And to our teachers, Om Agyana Tamarandasya, Gyananjana Salakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So what you have in the Bhagavatam is you have this conversation about who am I and why am I here. That's basically the opening gambit. Who am I? Why am I here? It's a big question. Most people go through their whole life and don't even ask the question. And if they do ask the question, it's met with, why bother anyway? Why even ask these questions? But according to the sages of India, of ancient Vedic culture, this is the question, and you should never retreat from it. You should keep pushing forward, or else what happens is you have a car, maybe sometimes even a very good car, maybe sometimes even a very expensive car. You have no idea where to drive it. What am I doing here? Sometimes I'll go very fast. Sometimes I'll go very slow. I don't even know why or where I'm driving. And it's like running in circles often, working so hard, accumulating so much, and realizing, what is it all for? I've worked so hard, but I've neglected my children, right? Or I've traveled my whole life, but maybe I was supposed to do something more substantial with my life. And people go through these midlife crises. Sometimes they get an inkling in their midlife, like, why? What am I working? What am I doing? Where am I going with this, right? So the Bhagavatam says from the very beginning of our life, this should be the priority, the number one thing on our to-do list. Who am I? Why am I here? Why am I working? What is the point of raising a family, saving money? What's it all about? What's it all about? Is that a song? Alfie. Is that what you're looking at me for?
I don't even know what that song is.
Oh, you're right.
I was wondering what song you're singing. I have no idea what it is.
I thought you knew it, so I busted out the song. It's like an old Johnny Mathis song or something. Anyway, just dated myself again. Anyway, what is it all about, Kaustubha? Why? The conversation is continuing because people are writing in questions. Oh, wait, there's an echo on Raghu. It's the oh crud. What?
So maybe today is just like a day that'll never get posted on the.
All right, this might be a day we never post
because the quality will be so bad.
Will you guys stay with us if we don't post it? Is that okay?
This will be special edition.
Maybe if you turn off the internet on your cell phones, will that help? Yeah. Go to airplane mode right now. Tom York says. Okay, now all the techies are chiming in. Seems like a laptop speakers are feeding back. There's an echo when you speak loudly. Oh, maybe I'm getting into Kaustubha's mic.
Achha. Should I slide back into?
I'm getting out of here, Kaustubha. I'm moving away. It still is a little unprofessional to post at this point, but.
And if that's the case, maybe we don't just read through. We do it tomorrow, and we just have some kind of freestyle today.
Kaustubha wants to freestyle rap here. Yo, my name's Kaustubha.
Maybe if people have questions, and we could read anywhere from the Bhagavatam, or read some Gita. Or maybe we should just do something different. I don't know how people feel about that, but that way we keep our consistency in what we post online.
Yeah, or we could just tell Krishna's pastimes.
Maybe people should.
Maybe we shouldn't do that. Okay. Maybe not. Anything you want to share about the Bhagavatam itself?
Leslie Lotto says, let's ask questions.
Okay. Throw up some questions. And you guys have any questions while we're here? Here's your chance.
No questions.
I got a question. Okay. Good night, everyone. I got a question for you, Kaustubha.
Right.
We are reading about an ancient culture, ancient traditions, ancient social system. Are we to expect to recreate that world? Or what does it mean to be a modern practitioner of bhakti in a new world?
Yeah.
What do you think about that, Kaustubha?
I think that we never know what the future holds. Right? We don't know. We're living in a world of, like, we could say, advanced technology.
Very advanced.
We're living in a world that has become, so much of it is based on electronics and on petroleum oil.
Yeah. Are we about to enter into the old collapse conversation?
Maybe
it's about to collapse. Are you a prepper?
I don't even know what a prepper is.
You guys preppers? Anybody a prepper?
Major,
Come on, no one's a prepper out there?
You mean you're like you got like a
yeah, like we got
root
sauerkraut
farm?
in our basement.
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about. We're prepared.
I'm definitely
We
not
got
a
water
prepper.
Filters.
I'm not a prepper. I live in an apartment with little closets and.
You're not stockpiling weapons. Okay, forget it. I thought you guys were all in on this with me.
You live out in the country. You're stockpiling out there. I'm running to your compound when everything starts to collapse. But we don't know what the future holds, and quite frankly, everything's temporary. So we don't know what's going to be around 10, 100 years from now. We don't know. So is there a chance, that there would be a society that's very much like what we read about in Bhagavatam? I say, yeah, definitely there's a chance for that. But it's definitely not that now. And I think if we were to try to force it, that it won't be successful. So we have to try to, in my mind, what a modern yogi is doing is they're trying to draw the essential elements out of these teachings and this culture and seeing how they can best apply them in the circumstances that exist now, right? And we spoke the other night about a sahagrahi Vaishnava, someone who's seeking the essence. So to do that well, it means one can't be too caught up in the details. One has to really understand the essence and then see what details apply and what details may need to be bended a little bit in order to make it all work. In order to make what work? In order to make that we're all lifting each other up, that we're all moving forward in life towards self-realization rather than just getting lost in sense gratification. Is that all right?
Yeah. I think the Bhagavatam will reveal itself of how it will work its way into Kali Yuga, but it's definitely here. It's not going anywhere. It's one of the most, the Bhagavatam,
yeah.
And the teachings of the Vedas, they're ancient, probably the oldest, I think it's the oldest canon of literature in the world. It speaks of this culture and these ideas as if it's been going on forever. So, and they were just compiled at this point in time. Mm-hmm. And we're still reading it today. Here it is. We're reading it today. And it's almost like it's been resurrected again. Almost like the sun comes out and then the sun sets and it comes out again. It never went away. We're definitely in some type of bhakti renaissance right now. And it's had renaissances throughout history as well. In the 1400s with all these great saints going to Vrindavan and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And the South India with the Alvars.
Yeah.
Do you think of any other bhakti renaissances?
Well, I think that with the Alvars cover a very long period of time.
Oh, really? I'm Alvar illiterate. You want to explain the Alvars?
The Alvars were from primarily from Tamil Nadu. I think one of them was from Kerala, but they were these poets, these mystic poets that I guess if you go back something like 1500 to 2500 years, it's something like that, that right. They lived, but they wrote very beautiful bhakti related poetry. We can see that they would read the Vedic literature and they would extract that devotional essence out and express it in very beautiful ways. So not only was it beautiful poetry, but it also became like people would take their philosophical guidance from it as well. Now then, there was a great saint named Ramanuja. And Ramanuja was, he was able to take all those bhakti teachings from the Alvars and codify them and kind of create an institution in a sense out of them. And he wrote very important commentaries on Bhagavad Gita and on Vedanta Sutra and so on. So at that time, I think there's a very powerful surge of bhakti. That was 1,000 years ago that Ramanuja lived. 800 years ago, Madhvacharya lived. And he, of course, had very important writings and very important traditions sprung from him. But then 500 years ago, sometimes this is there where they really say this was the bhakti movement, where you had Sri Chaitanya, you had Vallabhacharya, you had people like Mirabai and great poets like Suradas and so many others. And they began to teach bhakti. They especially revealed more about the intimate kind of devotion as compared to the reverential devotion that was more prominent in those southern traditions. So you could say 500 years ago, there's a big, powerful renaissance of bhakti.
And then you also have like Madhvacharya, Ramanujacharya, who just showed up and like, whenever a great saint appears, people flourish, people come around them, just like when Prabhupada came to America, people just dropped what they were doing. Like people were just like, what am I doing with my life? Whenever you meet a saintly person, they say just a moment's association with a saintly person, you're sort of like, what am I, what's the word?
Trivializes. Nice try.
Trivializes, wouldn't you? It trivializes. Trivializes.
Just try another word.
It just makes things seem so puny.
There you go.
It makes things seem so damn puny. They're like, what am I doing with my life? You meet people like that, and sometimes we meet people like that in our life. We're like, wow. That's why it's important to keep people like that in your life on a regular basis. That's why I go to India. It's why, listen to lectures. It's why I try to find great teachers or great masters and try to keep them close, either their words, their instructions, or their very being, because it makes me realize, oh man, I've got to get serious about my spiritual life on a regular basis. It's why it's why we keep the Bhagavatam in our lives as well, because it recalibrates our brain.
And you can have your own little personal Bhakti Renaissance.
Yeah, you can have your own personal. I think some of us are in a Bhakti Renaissance right now.
Yeah.
Right?
Then, of course, Srila Prabhupada brought that Bhakti to the whole globe, which, you could call that period. And you could extend it to the period that we're still in. I agree with you. I think there's more and more interest in it. There's more and more people seeking the essence.
Okay, I have a question from our very wonderful Ava.
Oh.
Ava.
Hi, Raghu.
Says hi. You want to read it?
Okay, I'll read it. Hi, Raghu. I posted this on Telegram the other day. I'm interested in what you were mentioning earlier regarding the non-sectarian lilt that is baked into the Bhakti teachings.
Sounds delicious.
Especially that of Maharaj Raghunath Swami. You encouraged us to ignore the haircuts, costumes, etc., and go straight to the look. You see what I just said that. I just said that. And go straight to the essence. So, can you reach pure bhakti following Lord Jesus, for example? How and why do we choose the path, and why is it advisable not to pick and choose from multiple traditions?
Good question. What a gem, our Ava. We love her. You want to try that? Or you want me to handle
she said to Raghu, so why don't you speak first?
Well, the idea of loving and connection is no one owns that. No one culture or spiritual culture. And I think one of the downfalls of bhakti culture is that there's so much information. We have so much like detailed information. You can get a little proud and think we know so much more than these other spiritual paths. I mean, we have, for example, I grew up in a Catholic church. We talk about the soul, but there was never a distinction of what is the soul. You'd ask your mom, does a dog have a soul? Yeah, no. Well, where do the dogs go when they die? And the answer was always something like, they go to dog heaven. Or, or the cats have a cat heaven? Are there different planets of pets? And what is it like, a giant kennel? A giant rescue shelter? With wings? So those type of questions are very clearly delineated in the Vedas. Questions about the soul, metaphysics, about mysticism. Like Christ did mystic powers. Does that make him God? Or do we all attain that? Can we become Christ-like? Or are we just forever, plebeians and in service with? We will never actually evolve. There's only one figure who's divine. Those questions were never quite clear. What about diet? How does diet affect us? Does diet affect us? Does diet have anything to do, or does health have anything to do with my spiritual evolution? What other things do you feel like?
Well, I mean, you could go on and on. Yoga, like asana and other, Ayurveda. Yeah. You could go into astrology. It's a very, very rich tradition. It's a very rich tradition that can really analyze one's whole body, mind, and soul. And
what's the difference between a deity and an idol? What is reincarnation? Isn't heaven a type of reincarnation? You speak of going to hell. Is hell a state of mind? Is hell an actual place? Like, what happens like if you never met Jesus because you lived in a weird part of the planet where there's no Christians? Do they go to hell forever? Eternally? Is hell eternal? That doesn't seem fair. I mean, okay, if I've done something evil, make me suffer. But I was born in Nome, Alaska. There was no Christians there in the year 100. I have to go to hell eternally now? Unfair.
It appears that way, doesn't it?
It appears that way, right?
Yeah.
So what is hell? Is hell eternal? Is there a purgatory? These are questions, I like some light. What's an angel? Tell me about an angel. Where do they go? Were they ever embodied? Who is so anyway, where am I going with this? My point is because we have a lot of information in the Vedic text, they go into great detail. There's like hardly any stone unturned. They go into such great detail, we might feel like, you know what? We got so much information. We are so much better than these other traditions. And it's just flatly wrong. Because the fact is, you can be arrogant. Knowledge doesn't give you an entrance level into divinity, into divine realms. Knowledge could be a big hurdle. It could be a big mountain for you to climb. Sometimes the people who are the most intelligent, who have the most knowledge, are incredibly arrogant. The key to get into the spiritual realm is a deep type of humility and a willing to question and push forward, but in a mood of more less of like a challenging way, but more of in a way of submissive inquiry. We hate that word in America, submissive. I'm not being submissive to nobody, but it's a type of submissive. If I want to know something from Kaustubha and he's got answers and I just have a bad attitude, no, you got to sort of like draw information out of people who have knowledge. So, I think that's a downside of when you have a big, vast well of wisdom, you can get proud of it and you can look down upon these other traditions. But at the same time, I mean, when you hear the teachings of the New Testament, for example, which I'm more familiar with, is love God with your heart, mind, and soul.
And love your neighbor as yourself.
And love your neighbor as yourself. And love your enemies. This is Bhakti-yoga. There's teaching. To me, when I hear about Christianity spoken in the New Testament, that's Gaudiya. That's Vaishnavism. That is the worship of Vishnu. Christ never said he was God. He said he was the Son of God. I'm seated at the right hand of the Father.
Right? My Father who's greater than I.
Father's greater than I. Right. We just say the Father's sweet baby Krishna. That's all.
How the baby
father
is
happens
the
to be a
father.
little baby. He crawls around and steals things. He's very naughty. But where are we going with this? I think I lost some viewers there. Okay. Okay, what else was part of this question? You encourage to ignore. Okay, so yes, ultimately, the outfits mean nothing. They're just costume changes. That being said, in defense of a costume, right? For example, suppose, anybody ever been to a party, had a party at your house, and all of a sudden there's a knock on the door, and all of a sudden you open the door, and a cop's at the door? Ever have a cop come to your house? How do you feel immediately? Like, hide it! Or whatever's going on. Or all of a sudden you look behind you, there's a cop in your rearview mirror. There's a feeling of like, okay, go slower. And the cop's going really slow. And you're like, do I keep going faster? Do I slow down? Do I fake it? Do I just pull over? Do I turn off here? Once you see that uniform, it sends a message, isn't it? Once I see the uniform, it sends a message. So there is an accountability in a uniform for your behavior. And there's a feeling that you get in a particular uniform.
No question.
What do you think about that?
Yeah, and therefore it can be helpful. Right?
Therefore it can be helpful.
As far as it's helpful, let's accept it. As far as it's detrimental, let it go.
Yeah, because there's also undercover cops.
Yeah.
Could be one of you right here now. Right? There's undercover cops. So what we're saying is it's not the uniform that makes one spiritual, but the uniform can be useful. So use it.
Even beyond the uniform, there's even the question of like one's faith, or we could say allegiance. Like, for instance, many religious people may think that the people that belong to my religion are the ones that are saved.
Right.
They're the ones that are connected. They're the ones that have a true connection with God. And anybody that's not in my tradition doesn't have that. They're very unfortunate that they don't have it, and they better get it soon. Like that.
The concept of looking down upon other spiritual practices is sad. It's sad and it's arrogant. What to speak of exclusivism? Like, they're not even going anywhere. That's like downright. It's borderline hate.
It can go there.
It can go there quick.
Yeah. Now let me ask you a question then.
Uh-oh.
If this is the case, if all these traditions are genuine, or if so many of them in any case are genuine, well then why are you in the tradition that you're in, Raghu?
Well, as I said in the old days, you better shop around. You got to shop around.
Okay.
You got to shop around. And when you shop around, you find something that's your taste and your flavor.
Was it Neil Sedaka that said that?
You better shop around. It was Neil Sedaka. If we're going to quote these guys from the 50s. It was Neil Sedaka said, you better shop around. And so that's what happens when we're choosing a spiritual path, or the spiritual path sometimes chooses you. I just had a sincere prayer. I want truth in my life. I want to understand divinity. I want a relationship with divinity. And I just threw my hands in the air. I didn't expect it to come in this package. Oh. I much prefer a cooler Buddhist robe. I think they got better branding, the Buddhists. But this is how it came to me. What could I do? Like Scrabble piece, you throw all your pieces in, and I want a new set of pieces. This is how truth came to me. It came through the literature, the people that I've met, these special times I've had in sacred places. What could I do? I've been praying for it sincerely, and this is what I got. And it works. It actually tangibly works for me. And I feel I have great joy in my life. I have community in my life. I see myself in perspective of time. It keeps me grounded. It makes my very, very paltry problems melt away. Paltry. Kaustubha's like,
good one.
Anytime I got a word, Kaustubha's like, yeah.
Nice poultry.
So anyway, that's what do you think, Kaustubha?
I think that's beautiful what you said. And in one sense, my circumstance was similar. I was shopping around a bit, for sure. And then it was this tradition that really was able to answer my questions in the most satisfying way, at least for me. Now, all that being said, there's the practical side and there's always the esoteric side that has to be considered. And so, one could go further and say, well, what keeps you in this tradition? Why do you stick with it? And part of the reason for me would also be, and this is my faith, and I don't expect others to necessarily embrace this faith, but through my exposure to this tradition, a faith in me has developed.
A faith in you?
Within me, a faith has developed.
Faith within you, okay.
That traditions are speaking on different levels of depth. And that this tradition goes to a very fascinating level of theological depth, where one can have not just a love for God, but love for God in a very particular intimate way, or in a variety of very particular intimate ways. And that becomes revealed in the 10th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. There are esoteric truths there that I find, wow, what an amazingly well-developed philosophy. It makes perfect sense, and it's very, very, very beautiful.
Yeah,
and I believe that not any tradition can deliver that. You to get there, you have to at some point come in touch with that. You have to hear that, and you have to hear that from people that have deep realization in it. And so, therefore, I feel I could go to any tradition right now, but that's part of the reason what keeps me in the tradition that I practice.
By the way, Ava said that was also for you.
Oh, okay.
So thank you. If I want to chime in on that one, if you don't mind. Yeah. I'm thinking like when we speak of higher realms, there's a lot of things I actually tangibly make sense to me. Diet and practices and meditation and chanting and controlling the mind and sense, very practical stuff that's been proven to me over the years. Then there's stuff that they're almost like promises, the stuff I can't perceive of. And that's when we talk about, when Ava says this question, well, Lord Jesus, for example, how and why do you choose this path? And why is it advisable to pick, she says, can you reach pure bhakti following Lord Jesus, for example? And my answer to that is, how do I know? Like there comes to a point where you got to reach like, I don't know. I have no idea. I've never heard sweet baby Krishna mentioned in the Bible. I don't know these things, but perhaps perhaps if Krishna is, which I don't even know, this is what the great sages say. This is what the whole foundation of the yoga system says, that there's avatars of God. God isn't just one, he's one and many. And therefore, they say by continuing on the path, eventually you have this revelation where you're actually standing face to face with your Ishta, your object of meditation. Now, I don't know if that's going to manifest in that tradition as Krishna or Vishnu. It could. I don't know. I'm way at the bottom of the ladder. And they don't mention Krishna in those traditions, although they do have like Book of Revelations that describe a very Vishnu-like being.
Well, you said that you would be face to face with the object of your meditation. And so my point would be, therefore, you need the information to meditate on that object.
Well, but then I feel like it almost takes away from a Christian tradition. They could say, well, maybe that comes through revelation. And, who am I to say what they're experiencing?
Well, they could say that if they like, and then that's their right to. But from the tradition that we practice in, it would say that for that to be revealed to you, meditate on that. And so therefore I'd say, can someone achieve pure bhakti in the Christian tradition? My answer would be yes, because I see that that's what Jesus teaches. But even within whatever you want to call it, the Hindu tradition, or even the bhakti tradition that came down historically, my faith is that with the coming of Sri Chaitanya, that special intimate bhakti was particularly revealed. And that was that was his mission, to kind of open that door up. Even within India, even within Hinduism, or even within the Bhakti tradition.
No, it's pretty. We should have a Lord Chaitanya show one day. Yeah. Bring a special guest out and have the Lord Chaitanya show. It would be nice.
That could be Raghunath
Live in Mayapur. Raghunath Swami.
Yeah. Live in Mayapur. The Lord Chaitanya show.
Hold on one sec, Silas. I just want to clarify this as well. I'm not into this because I'm hoping that when I die, I'll go to heaven. Like the communists criticize spiritualists and say, you just want some, who is it, Stalin or Marx? It would say, you just want some pie in the sky when you die. I'm not into it in hopes to get to heaven. I actually tangibly like my life. I like what I do. I like what I read. I like what I study. I like what I practice. It makes life more enjoyable. The practice of bhakti, it's not when I die. It's bhakti's happening right now.
You just want to continually go deeper and deeper and deeper.
Yeah. It's not I got to suffer now because there's going to be a payoff when I die. I'm not thinking like that. I just wanted to share that.
I like that.
You like that? Okay, Silas, come closer. Talk into the mic. Come on. Everybody knows Silas. This is Ava, who just asked the previous question. And no, it's Ava's husband, not question. You're not a question, you're a husband. And we've decided today that only this family can ask questions today. What do you think, Prabhu?
Hello, Ava.
That was adorable.
In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says that at the time of leaving your body, right, if you're chanting his name, you will go to him.
He says,
right?
what you remember at the time of death.
I mean, Jesus is not one of Krishna's names, right? I mean, Jesus is not an avatar of Krishna. So maybe you can achieve a path that looks very similar to bhakti, that is a life of devotion and service and love. And you can have love for a God who, in theory, loves you back, but it is not the same bhakti, and it doesn't bring you to the same place that the Bhagavad Gita promised us you will go.
How do you know?
Here's the fundamentalist, Silas. Okay, thank you. I'd have to say we don't know.
Well,
and I say chanting Jesus' name is the Guru's name.
Let us define what bhakti is. Right?
Yeah.
So bhakti means that we're approaching God without any ulterior motive other than love. That's the definition for bhakti. Does Jesus teach that? I find he does teach that. So can his teachers deliver one to that state of consciousness wherein one would have a connection to God purely out of love?
Okay.
I believe, I see no reason why that shouldn't be. But
yeah, see, I like Kaustubha.
At the same time, what you said is regarding love for that boy Krishna, that form of God. Or any other particular form that he appears in, one needs to following the line that's delivering that. One needs to hear that in order to fall in love with it. In other words, we can fall in love with what we know about. There's you know, in the Bhagavatam in the 10th canto, there's so many fascinating pastimes of Krishna. And one of them is about the princess Rukmini, right? Who Rukmini was, she was about to be married off to who was it? Shishupal she was meant to be married to, I believe. Yeah.
No.
No? Or was a friend of Shishupal?
Yeah, maybe.
Shishupal.
Maybe Shishupal.
I believe it's Shishupal.
Shishupal? Is
All
that
right,
the
let's
answer,
say
Shishupal? All right. Blew it.
So anyway, she's about to be married to a not a very nice warrior. But she had heard from a Brahmana, she had heard about Krishna. And simply by hearing the descriptions of him, she had fallen in love with him. And then she composed a very beautiful letter to Krishna. And that there's so much in this theology. That's my point. It's so rich, it's so deep. She writes a letter to Krishna, saying, Krishna, I've never seen you, but I've heard about you. And I've given my heart to you. I'm begging you to please accept me. And I'm telling you how to come and please rescue me now. And so this letter is delivered to Krishna, and he comes and he rescues her. And so we can, you know, what can we take from that? Is that simply by hearing these specific descriptions that Srila Vyasadeva, this great realized saint, who he had seen this with his own eyes in his own meditation, that he's like, I'm going to deliver to you that substance that you can meditate on and fall in love with, that Akila Rasa Rita Murti, that form of God that can reciprocate with all varieties of divine love. Now, does that come in any other tradition? From what I understand, no. But pure love for God can come in another. And then wherever that takes, in one sense you can say it's just all one tradition. If we're moving to God, then in that sense it's all one tradition. And it doesn't necessarily stop. It can continue and go deeper and deeper to wherever your devotion takes you.
Gauranga Das.
There's a whole thing going on there. I don't know where to.
There's a whole thing of these threads. I'm lost now. Are you on that, Mara?
Maybe the person that wrote it could just speak it. We could unmute and they could just ask the question.
Gauranga?
So much to
Gauranga Avatar Prabhu, you want to ask your question?
Hare Krishna
I can't find the genesis of your question.
Hi, Ball. Can you hear me?
Oh,
Genesis. Nice, Raghu.
Oh,
Hi,
I
Ball.
can't hear a word you're saying. Try
No,
that.
that was me you're hearing right
That
now.
was you.
Can you hear me?
This is
Oh.
weird.
All right, Ball. Can you hear me?
Yep. Nope.
Maybe there's a delay.
Okay.
Maybe we do need to write them down.
Okay.
And maybe you need to turn off
This
your
is
volume.
so here it is. Does the soul ever choose a more difficult life when re-entering the material world so that the soul can learn more, become more purified? I was thinking of Judd Bart.
I didn't understand the question.
Does the soul ever choose a more difficult life when
Ah.
re-entering the material world so that the soul can learn more, become more purified? But I don't think in Judd Bart's case, he acted as if he was not. The soul didn't choose that.
You know, it just reminds me of something, just food for thought. But if someone is very, like, say, for instance, there's a fascinating history, right, of a great saint named Bilvamangala Thakur. He was a man that in his earlier life, he was very attached to one prostitute named Chintamani.
Attached to a prostitute.
He was visiting her regularly. And I don't
Just
mean that like
clarifying.
I don't mean they were
love the prop.
Siamese twins. And
Siamese. Who's a Siamese twin with a prostitute? That was good. Okay.
and so one night, it was a stormy night, and he but he just couldn't control himself, and she lived on the other side of the river, but of course there's no boats crossing the river in this storm, but he swims across the river, and just all kind of like horrible, terrible things are happening. Like a dead body floats by, and he thinks it's a log to hang on to. He's like, oh my God, it's a dead body. And somehow he gets across the river, and then he shows up. And then Chintamani says something to him, right? And what she said changed his life forever. And based on this one instruction, it turned him around and led towards his becoming one of these great celebrated saints of Vrindavan. She said, it took you such effort to get here. If only you would put that kind of effort into developing your love for God, you would be a pure saint. And when he heard that, he was just like, so true. What am I doing with my life?
What am I doing?
Who am I? How have I become this? So then he leaves to go to live in Vrindavan. And on the way, and this is going to sound extreme. This is not what we're recommending anyone do, but it just relates to what he's saying.
Are you sure you're going to share this part of the story?
I'm going to even pare this down a bit. But he became so attracted to another woman. He was thinking, my eyes, they're just like, this sense of sight is just dragging me down.
Ruining my
and he
life.
blinded himself. Okay.
Good night, everyone. That's the take for tonight. That's your message.
So here, but then he moved on to Vrindavan, and I tell you, practically my favorite like prayers come from, the Govinda Damodar Stotram, Govinda Damodar Madhaveti. So beautiful, like the beauty in that man.
That's the author that just...
Yeah, Bilvamangala Thakur, the beauty in that man's heart.
We are not recommending this to anyone.
We're not recommending, please do not do this at home.
Do not try this at home.
But my point being this, he recognized that the body is part of our karma, and he recognized that I would rather be blind, right? I would rather have that kind of karma. And which makes me think that, for instance, say someone's born, let's say they're born attractive, and they feel that, and they find that this has actually slowed down my progress. It's opened doors for me that I would be better off if those doors weren't opened. It's got my mind going places where my mind might not be going if I were born even ugly, deformed in some other way. And perhaps that desire could lead them to taking a birth in, how did Gauranga Prabhu describe? What term did he use to describe? A lower birth? Is that what he said?
A difficult birth to take on more lessons.
Maybe someone could be born blind. Maybe someone could be born, and maybe when we meet a person like that, particularly if sometimes we meet some very saintly people like that, perhaps that was a desire of theirs. And perhaps this birth is a continuation of their coming closer and closer to God. That, please, Lord, give me Lord Brahma begged to take a very low birth. He took birth as Haridas Thakur. So I could see this as a pattern in a devotee's life. Please let me take a very humble birth so that I can come closer to you.
Or what I would think also is sometimes you just get a birth that, a child dies at a young age. A child's born deformed. A child gets hit by a car. They seem completely innocent, but they are very special children. They might just have a little bit of karma to burn off before they're liberated. It may not be, it seems like a tragedy from our vantage point, but it could be the greatest thing that ever happened to them. They had just a little karma to burn off, and then they're liberated. And this is where, the Vedic teachings shine a light on that. We're not here for a lifetime. We're here for lifetimes. And we're learning lessons. We're just learning lessons lifetime after lifetime. And I failed a bunch of my lessons already in this lifetime. And I'm here to try to, I want to take it up again. I want to pass the test, so to speak. I want to evolve as a being. I want to upgrade. I don't want to degrade. I've been there. I've done that. It's old. So, we just might have some karma to burn. We got some body that we just have to burn it off. And that could be the end of life. From our vantage points, oh my God, how tragic! Why do bad things happen to good people?
Yeah.
But the fact is, we're not seeing the whole picture. We use the example of the tapestry. Tapestry is like an embroidery. It's a very beautiful picture on one side, but if you were to flip that tapestry over, it looks quite random threads sticking out. That's material world. It looks random. This guy's rich. This guy's suffering. This guy's born crippled. This guy's an Olympic champion. Nothing seems fair in the material world. Everything's fair. People don't even like to hear that, but everything's fair. You get what you need to grow. You get what you need to grow in this world. And we have an option at every moment to grow or to become bitter at the material world.
You get what you need to grow.
You get what you need to grow.
That's a good one, right? The hashtag.
Hashtag that one. T-shirt.
That's
you get what you need to grow, but
you know.
So of course those threads aren't random; they're actually perfect. It's just hard from my vantage point to see that. I just see my life as Raghunath, that's Kaustubha. Oh, one of us going to die first, whatever it is. It's a thin view of reality. I've had multiple bodies, multiple lifetimes. I've been in multiple positions.
Is Doyle Garanga here among us?
What's that?
Doyle Garanga Prabhu?
Doyle Garanga? Oh, we got to.
Because I was just thinking, he's teaching the Nectar of Instruction. I believe there's a mention that once you see, because like say someone's born with a particular, one could say like negative karmic kind of situation. Let's say they're born blind, born deformed, born something like that. Then people might be prone to kind of judge them and say, oh, look at the bad karma. Right.
Right.
But there in that book, Rupa Goswami gives an instruction about never seeing like that.
Yeah. We're asked to have divine vision.
Yeah.
We don't know who we're sitting right across from. You have no idea. It's really quite amazing when you start to think like that. Who are these people? I'm looking at all these faces that have come to India with a spiritual intention, walking away from their lives. Who are they? Is this their last birth? Have they just caught up, or have they picked up something from their last life and now they're running? Yes, I get it. I'm going to apply truth to my life. I'm letting go of all these things that were dragging me down. I was attached to these things that never served me. And I'm going to let them go. We don't know where people, I know in my own short life, living in an ashram and being in spiritual circles, there's people that I got into it, so to speak. I got them into bhakti, so to speak. But you could tell they are so evolved, they went miles above my head in a short time. Because I didn't actually get them into anything. But the universe, God, used me to sort of spark what was already in them that they just left off in their last life. And then you just pick it up where you last left off. Because everything we do, both material, spiritual, good, bad, habits, they're all practices that we continue. People are bringing their practice of a previous life into their new life.
That was beautiful, Raghunath.
Thank you. Good night, everyone.
Do you ever think sometimes, I don't know if it's so much in the Shastra, I guess there must be places, and maybe even like in Indian folklore, but we think about like, you're going down the street and there's the beggar, but actually the beggar is Lord so-and-so in disguise.
Right. Lord Shiva.
Yeah.
So many times in the Mahabharata, Lord Shiva disguised himself as the hunter.
And so then you have to think about whoever you see, particularly I think, because I live in Manhattan, I've seen beggars every day.
Right. Is that Jesus? Ever do that? Is that Jesus? Should I give him money? It's Jesus.
But I do think that
I think like that.
I don't speculate that it is, but what I do meditate on is Paramatma's in my heart, Paramatma's in that person's heart, no matter what. That much I feel very confident on. And what to speak of, perhaps I'm being tested right now. Perhaps, to try to see every living being with a soft heart, to try to move through this world in a way that we're dealing with everyone as if they are very special, because quite factually, everybody is very special.
Everybody's special. You're all special. If no one told you that today, I'm here to tell you, you're special, you're valid. It's time for the music.
Here we go.
What? Look
Sita
at these
is very special.
People. This is like the old days before we were a podcast. Thanks to everybody joining us. Everybody joined us late. Thanks to my 2 kids watching and my father-in-law. Jeff Sims, welcome. Julie Blondina, Suryajit, Kruti. Careful if you're driving. Some of you are driving. Thanks for everybody who wrote in questions. I hope the answers were satisfactory. God. Everybody. Jace.